so I can get this motherfucking carb. So the carb rebuilt. What the fuck? That's really about it. Let's get this thing started. So the carb is rebuilt. I went ahead and put the gasket back on to the carb. I'm gonna go ahead and pop this onto the head, tighten down this bolt. But before I do that, I'm gonna get the throttle and idle cable put in, the cover put back on, and then go ahead and put the hot start plunger back in. That'll make this a little bit easier instead of trying to do all that shit with this in place. So, let's do that. Okay, so that does it for all the things that got to be reconnected, minus the wiring harness, which I'm going to do last because it's right on top, and I don't really want that, you know, hindering me being able to wiggle this thing in here. So yeah, now I need to get all these vent lines organized and put in their housings. Man, that went in so much easier than it came out. Jesus. So now I just need to tighten down this clamp here. That should be plenty tight enough. And then reconnect this throttle position sensor. Nice satisfying click. Everything looks good. Alright, so that's the carb completely reinstalled. There's the wiring harness, throttle and idle cables, the hot start tube right there, chokes in here. Had to tighten that one down. Yeah, really straightforward. This thing was a whole lot easier getting it in than it was getting it out. Definitely recommend removing the gas tank. It's not hard to do and it made it a million times easier. I have seen some people take this bolt out for the rear shock and just sort of pivot it back and give them more room in the back here. I didn't really feel like doing that. This seemed to work out the best for me. I needed to get up under here anyway and check out the spark plug and the valve cover anyway, so kind of worked out. All right, I got some new fuel hose that runs from the petcock to the carb. This is from Honda. I want to say it's 3/8 inch diameter. I don't remember. Basically, I just got a foot length of it, and I'm gonna attach it up here at the valve, and I'm gonna cut it and attach it here at the fuel inlet, and that's really about it. That easy. Okay, so last we left off, I got the carb put in, all the vent lines ran, the wiring harness plugged back in, the fuel line hooked up, the throttle and idle cable hooked up, and the hot start plunger hooked up. So that's it for the carburetor. So what I'm gonna do now is install the gas tank back on here. Gonna be real straightforward. I got a new fuel line for it, some 5/16 fuel line. Basically, I have about a 2 foot length of it. I'm gonna feed it through, lower the tank in, hook it on here, bolt it in here, and then I'm gonna cut the line, fit it onto the petcock, tighten it down, good to go. It's that easy. So without further ado, so it's literally that easy. Now I just gotta cut this and put it on and we're good. Okay, so the tank is in. Fuel line from the bottom feeder into the petcock, into this fuel line, which feeds into the carburetor, which is hooked up. So that's by far the easiest fuel system I've ever taken out and putting back in. I mean, that took me all of 3 minutes to do. All right, we're gonna continue getting this bike back together by putting on the rear subframe to include this airbox breather hose, connector to the carburetor, and a new air filter. This should be pretty straightforward. It's only 3 bolts, and then you gotta tighten this down on the carb. Shouldn't be bad at all. Rear subframe is on. Wasn't too hard. Getting this airbox onto the carburetor was kind of hard just because it's so tight in there and the fitting is very tight as well. But I went ahead and put blue Loctite on all 3 of the subframe bolts. My battery died in my camera last night, so I wasn't able to getting the rest of the subframe on, nor did I get me putting the exhaust back on video. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you how to do that real quick without actually redoing it. It's not hard to do. I just want to get this thing started, and that's what I'm gonna do right after I show you this. Okay, so the exhaust is really simple. Just 2 bolts on a flange onto the header, and then you have to work the pipe up through here. With that still being kind of loose, you want to slip the muffler on, put in this bolt here on the subframe, and then there's a 12 mm bolt that attaches the muffler to the actual header pipe. So you tighten those down and tighten those 2 bolts down. It's that easy. I do need to get the air filter put in here under the seat, but I'm gonna go ahead and leave it off in case there's some starting issues. I can spray some starter fluid in there. And then once it starts up and everything sounds good, I'm gonna put the new air filter in. Let's get this thing started. The choke is on. Fuel is on. I did leave the fuel on for a little bit, so there should be plenty in the float bowl. Alright, let's see if this bitch will start. That thing sounds so much better. Took a minute to get started though. Maybe she's broken. I don't know. They fired up. So that's a good sign.